Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Before I get started in today's video, I want to take a moment to explain why I haven't been putting up too much content here lately on YouTube, on Patreon, on BitChute, on everywhere. I just haven't been able to access the internet. It's pretty simple, and so I wanted to give you an update to let you know that I'm not slowing down at all on making videos. The backstory, and I'll try to make this quick, since we've moved to this property, we've had a horrible time trying to get internet access, which is a common problem when you move way out in the middle of nowhere. The only option seemed to be satellite internet, and the problem really for us with satellite internet is it has such a low data cap that I would use up the data in about a week to week and a half. And so it just didn't seem, feasible or wise to pay a monthly service fee to only get to use it for a week and a half or so. So we've used our cell phones to upload videos, and it's been really slow cell service out here. Even though the cell tower isn't really that far away, it's just always been slow. And it takes about 3 hours or so to upload a 20-minute video that is in just about the lowest format that I can do it. I usually upload it about 480. On the video, which is not very good quality. So anyways, it's been progressively kind of getting worse, and all of a sudden it just bottomed out. We just woke up one day and we couldn't hardly even access email. This was just in this past week. Our data speeds were registering at somewhere around 0.01 to 0.06. And so those of you that know what that means, it's just incredibly slow, and we couldn't do anything really with anything online, uploading videos or anything. It would have taken days to upload a single video. So the videos I had been putting out, we were having to drive about 30 minutes to the nearest hotspot so that I could upload those, and it's an extreme inconvenience because it's in a place that we just normally wouldn't go. So of course we called the cell phone company. Was on the phone for a long time with them. They tried all this different stuff. They couldn't figure out why this was happening. They hadn't slowed us down for any reason. It just wasn't working, and they couldn't figure out why. So they ended up sending us new SIM cards, thought that maybe, new SIM cards, they could kind of reset the phones. We get the new SIM cards, and 4 hours on the phone with them because the SIM cards wouldn't take. The SIM cards just wouldn't connect. Finally got it working. And we are so excited that we have really good internet, especially for living out here where we're at. My data speeds this morning before I made this video, the download speeds are between 25 and 30 megabits per second, and the upload speeds were between about 3 to 7 megabits per second. So I know for those of you that are on cable internet or DSL, that have the really high speed stuff probably laugh at those numbers, but out here in the country, that's impressive. So what that means is that I can start uploading the content that I normally did, but because it's so much faster, I can upload more videos, more content, maybe even do some live streaming once in a while, because in the past I just could not do live streaming. I tried it, and the quality was so poor because of the slow speed. So anyways, I just wanted to give you an update for everyone that's, watches me on the different platforms that I'm on. That's the reason why my content, has slowed down a lot. I couldn't get anything uploaded. So hopefully we will have a change here soon because of this increased speed, at least for us. I mean, that's a big difference going from 0.5 megabits per second to 25 to 30. That's a drastic difference. All right, so I want to talk to you some more about what's going on with the dollar. I know that we talk about this often, but I believe it's extremely important with all the things that are going on that we keep track of this, monitor it, because the significance and the devastation that will happen when our dollar completely crashes. I don't think that most Americans, even ones that are kind of familiar with, hyperinflation and a crashing dollar, I don't think most Americans have really wrapped their head around what it means when our currency completely collapses. And, in fact, I was talking to my mother just a few days ago about this, and she was really, very inquisitive. My mother is, very open-minded about this stuff, and is kind of, I've, turned her into a prepper. But, what it really means when our dollar completely collapses. The amount of devastation, the fact that you won't be able to purchase anything, or if you do try to purchase anything with your currency, you're going to pay astronomical prices. And we're seeing the prices of just about everything going up. And I know if for those of you that may, play the markets and investments and stuff, you might say, hey, this is good for me. But in the long run, when everything's increasing across the board, it usually means the prices are increasing because the dollar value is less. The purchasing power of the currency is less. So they have to increase the prices. Look at all the commodities. Nearly every commodity over the past year has increased in value. Nearly every one of them. And commodities, their only value is in the supply and the demand. Okay. And these commodities, there's not been a drastic difference in supply and demand for most of these commodities. What has changed is the purchasing power of the currency used to purchase the commodities. So everything from like farming commodities, soybeans, corn, wheat, potatoes, to lumber, to your natural resources, oil, gas, propane, everything's going up. And they're even putting some restrictions on things. That usually doesn't end up being a good thing. I want to show you 3 charts. One of them I have shown several times, and I know some of you are going to say these charts alone don't mean that we're hyperinflating our dollar or we're heading towards hyperinflation, and I agree with you. That's not what I'm exactly saying. What I'm saying is that they should at least cause you to pause and think about this, because I think there is some connection to what these charts are going to show. Now, the first one here, I'm going to move to the side. The first one up here, this is a chart from Weimar, Germany. Now, for those of you that don't know, Weimar, Germany, their currency hyperinflated back in the 1920s. I won't go into all the details on it, but it was an independent state of Germany, and they hyperinflated their currency. And it's very well documented. It's probably the most documented case of hyperinflation of a government's currency. And they were using their currency to heat their home. They were actually burning the physical paper currency in their stoves to heat their home, because it was cheaper to do that than it was to actually go out and purchase coal or wood to heat their homes. They were wallpapering their houses with it. Children were playing with it. People were taking wheelbarrow full of their currency to the store to buy a loaf of bread or something. But what I want you to do is look at this graph of how it has this big, huge spike. You notice that big, huge spike? That's where it started to hyperinflate. And when it hyperinflated, the dollar crashed there. The mark, it was actually the mark, it crashed and it became absolutely worthless, completely worthless, okay? I'm going to show you another one. This is Venezuela. Now, Venezuela, this is much more recent, somewhere around 2015, 2016. They hyperinflated their currency too. And the reason why is because they went into insane amount of debt. They used to be one of the most prosperous countries on the planet. They were the second to third biggest economy in the Western Hemisphere, and they were once the second largest purchaser of Ford pickups, showing that everyone was getting a new Ford pickup down there in Venezuela. They were not a third world country at all. Very, very modern. Then they embraced socialism. And began going down the road of communistic policies and socialistic economy. And they hyperinflated their currency. Now look at this chart. See how it makes that same big, huge hook upwards that Weimar, Germany did. Very similar, right? See the connections? All right, now this next one that I'm getting ready to show you is from the Federal Reserve. I showed it to you the other day. This is I believe the M1 money supply. This is the money that's on the banks, on the books with the Federal Reserve. This is what they show that they have on the books. At the start of the health crisis, they basically just added more zeros. I mean, that's literally what they did. They went in and said, "Oh, we now have this much money." They created currency, money, out of thin air. Okay, can you imagine what it'd be like if you could do that? If you could just, bring up your bank account on your computer and say, all right, I've got $100 in my bank account. Let's see, what happens if I add 3 more zeros to it? Ooh, I'm rich. I'm rich. If everyone did that, would we all be rich, or would we all be just as poor or wherever we're at as we've always been? Because we're not really increasing the value. We're just adding more slices to the same pie. This pie serves 8. Well, let's cut them down to where we're serving 16. Now we're serving 32 people out of the same pie. We're feeding more people, sure, but we're getting a much, much smaller slice of the pie because our currency is worth less, right? So here's the chart from the Fed. You notice how it makes that very same distinctive upward hook? I mean, it's almost identical as the other two charts. Now, again, I'm not saying that that proves undoubtedly that we are hyperinflating our currency, but it does indicate that we're probably starting down the same path. I mean, we already have been going down the same path as other countries like Weimar, Venezuela, Zimbabwe. We could sit here and name other countries that have hyperinflated their currency because they have produced too much of it and they had way too much debt. We are now hovering around $30 trillion in debt. And I don't know if you've been watching the news over the last few weeks, but it just seems like they're constantly proposing new bills to spend more money. Now, of course, no one's getting their $2,000 stimmy checks apparently, but how many bills have been passed to send money to the military-industrial complex, send money abroad? The amount of spending that's been going on, and this has been going on a year. This is one thing I'm not criticizing only the current administration, because the previous administration did the same thing. In fact, every administration, at least for the past 30 to 40 years, has contributed to this, where they're constantly spending, and increasing the amount of debt. In fact, our currency is just debt. They are debt bonds. That's all that piece of paper that you have in your wallet is. It's not money. It's a debt bond, okay, for all the debt that we are in. And at some point, people, other nations, and the markets are going to start losing faith in our currency because we've produced so much of it and we have so much debt that we're now at a level that it's virtually impossible for us to pay off this debt. Add with that all the other problems that's going on in the world, other problems going on here in America, and the fact that China, our biggest adversary, especially economically, is doing everything they can. I believe that they want the U.S. dollar to crash. I believe that they're just holding on till they finally get everything that they want set into place, and then they're going to start the attack into that arena, because they want to be the king of the mountain when it comes to global finances. And I believe they probably want to be the global currency standard as opposed to the U.S. dollar. So now that we've gotten that all out of the way, this is the part where I repeat nearly the same thing all the time. You've got to prepare, folks. You've got to take this seriously. Again, if you don't know what will probably happen, if you cannot, be imaginative enough to realize what happens, and that's not saying that derogatory, some people just haven't researched it enough. Do the research. Look into Venezuela, what's been going on in Venezuela. And I believe that Venezuela is a very good representation of what we're seeing happen here in the United States. Some people might say, yeah, Venezuela is a little extreme. I don't really think so. I think that there's a very strong representation there. The only thing that I think that's happening in America that didn't happen there is this really radically progressive left social policies. Where now we're We're putting a man that dresses like a woman in charge of the Health and Human Services, a guy that says that he wants to give drugs to children to basically change their gender. We're wanting to give these hormone blockers and all this and do surgeries and say that it's okay. I mean, we're changing the gender of a plastic potato. It's insane. I don't know that any other country has quite gone down that road, but usually there is also a loss of morality. Probably not to the level that we're experiencing here in the United States, but it does happen. The point being, folks, is it absolutely devastated Venezuela. Venezuela, they have what they call the Venezuelan diet. And it's kind of a joke, and I don't know if you're familiar with that kind of humor, that when things are so bad, you just try to turn it into a joke, just so that you can just kind of tolerate it. You know it's awful, but you just kind of joke about it, and that's what they've done there. People are starving to death. They're literally starving to death because they don't have any food. They don't have enough food. And there's multiple pictures of the same people for a period of 5 or so, 6 years. And, they start off looking like me. And then the most recent picture, they look like they just came from a concentration camp because they're running out of food down there. People are fighting over loaves of bread and over, clean water. They already took all their guns a few years ago. They handed those over before this started, when everything was still prosperous and wonderful, and everyone just gladly handed over their guns so that the state could protect them. And then now they've run out of everything. And we're seeing the stark, cold, horrible results of socialism and the results of having a currency that's absolutely worthless. And so America could very easily go down that path, and that's why you have to be as prepared as possible with your food, your water, where you're at, the ability to produce food, the ability to protect yourself, to build connections and a network and a community around you. Build your mindset. Get into that warrior mentality. Doesn't mean that you're going into battle, but that you're going to survive this, and that you're going to build a network and to build your family up so that you have a much more likely survivability than just everyone else. Get your house in order, and that's really the bottom line, folks. So I'm about ready to be, if you can't hear it, I have a bunch of birds over here that's decided to come over and say hello, and they're going to get really noisy. So I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. But thank you all for watching, and I'm excited that we have internet once again, that I can start producing more videos for you. And I'll catch you in the next video.